So thanks for having me, everyone. My name is Brendan Sheehan. I'm a web developer and I run a little coding shop called Development Group. And we make experiences, apps, and sites for creative agencies mainly and other fun clients. The js.la is by far my favorite group and I'm really stoked to be here. So tonight I want to talk a little bit about Web3. Web3 is an extrapolation of the web powered by decentralized applications, which are running on the blockchain. Web3 provides a new way to interact with, develop for, and think about the web. Currently, the Web3 space is dominated by a few extremely passionate subcultures, all of which are somewhat related to like financial gain. So breaking into or even just observing these movements can be overwhelming, and it can make it difficult to see what Web3 really is at its core and what it can mean for the future of the web. My goal here tonight is to push aside the headlines and tweets about crypto idealism and NFT FOMO. Instead, I want to attempt to break down a practical example of how Web3 could work and what it looks like to be both a Web3 user and developer. So I first experienced Web3 when a family member convinced me to check out a crypto project he was excited about. Engaging with this project was laborious and puzzling. I'll spare you most of the details, but it involves setting up a browser extension, crypto wallet, sending some coin I already owned into it, and then I plugged this wallet into a sequence of websites in order to acquire and trade different tokens. And once that was complete, I had to visit yet another website in order to verify the transactions and be able to see these tokens in my wallet. So if I hadn't had someone holding my hand through this initiation, I'm not sure I would have known what to do or cared to figure it out. The experience was confusing and weird, and also was like just a little uneasy. I had just interacted with multiple websites, spent actual virtual money, and I never once had to go through the email password ritual we've been contending with for the past 20 odd years. It felt super strange to interact with the web in this way, but it was the first time I began to grasp the concept of what Web3 is, which is Web3 is a new way for us to manage our online identities and interact with the web. So you might be asking, how did the web get so free? Well, let's go back and briefly go over Webs 1 and 2. So with Web 1 was the first iteration of the popular World Wide Web, took off in the 90s, and here we're mainly seeing read-only, hand-coded websites back in the webmaster days. In the early 2000s, we were served up Web 2.0. Here we started entering our username and passwords in order to have a more personal relationship with the web. With Web 2.0, we get e-commerce, blogs, social media, and fun things like comment sections. A side effect of Web 2 is that we have various bits of our personal information scattered all around the internet, like phone numbers, addresses, credit cards, all of this stuff that actually pertains to our real world lives as well as our online lives. So Web 3 puts our personal data in our wallets and allows us to control when and how to use it. But we need to understand that everything in our wallet is public record. So another concept I've come to understand is that Web3 allows us to separate our IRL and online identities. So I want to do a little show and tell of a hypothetical Web3 experience, which will hopefully illustrate the potential of Web3. So let's say we js.la members decide to organize an online symposium, and we want to create a Web3 way to register our guests. What we're going to do is create a website where a user can register a pass. Once that user is issued the pass, it can come back to our website and unlock gated content. So let's do a quick little demo. Whoops. Okay, so here we have our JavaScript symposium website. And I'm going to open up, here's the browser extension MetaMask wallet, which is our Web3 wallet. So let's quickly go over the fundamentals of the Web3 wallet. Your wallet is an application which allows you to interact with the Web3 blockchain. The contents of your wallet are stored in smart contracts, also on the blockchain. There are a few wallet providers out there, but MetaMask seems to be like the standard in the space. I haven't mentioned a specific blockchain yet because Web3 isn't tied to a particular chain. However, Ethereum is by far the most popular, with the majority of Web3 projects being realized on this chain. Ethereum certainly has some issues, specifically with the cost of doing business on the network, aka gas fees, but for now it's clearly the leader. So here we have a wallet with some fake Ethereum in it. It's fake because we're running it on the Rinkeby test network, you can see up here. Rinkeby is one of a few test networks out there. It's a real blockchain, but doesn't cost real money to use. So it's great for playing around and testing. So let's go ahead and interact with our website. The first thing you'll see is this connect wallet button, and let's click it. So what that's going to do, it's going to pull up MetaMask, and I have a few different sub accounts within my wallet, and we're going to connect to the website using this Web3 demo account. And it's going to ask us to confirm. And there we go. So it brings us back to our website. And here we see, hi, 0x0426, blah, blah, blah. You are now connected to the website. So this hash here, that's the address to our Ethereum wallet. And now that we're connected, we also see a little element here that's asking us to register for our symposium. So let's go ahead and click that. Okay, cool. So it's bringing up MetaMask again, our crypto wallet, and it's saying, hey, this website here, it's asking for 0.001 Ethereum in order to mint an item. Now we'll talk about what minting an item is in a minute, but it's gonna ask us to confirm this transaction, and you see it just kind of refresh there. It's checking the gas fee, or the estimated gas fee, which is the price of doing business on the network, and we're going to confirm that. Come back to our site, and we see that our transaction is now processing. We can open up our MetaMask here, and it should say, well, cool. All right, well, it went through, and let's actually, I'm on the wrong account here, so let's get in here. Cool, so that just worked. We just registered for our symposium, and now we're enjoying premium content. Now, since this is a decentralized application, this data is not specific to just this website. So we can take a look around the Web3 ecosystem and see what's going on. The first stop is Etherscan, and Etherscan is basically a GUI for the blockchain. Every transaction on the Ethereum blockchain can be reviewed here. We can click through our MetaMask wallet to review the transaction. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to open up the wallet. This is the transaction that was just executed. I'm going to click into this. And then here we see this little icon up top to view on Etherscan. Let's do that. Cool. So I'll give you a little rundown of what we're seeing here. This is the transaction hash, which is just the address, the hash of this actual transaction. We'll see that it's a success. We'll see the block, and that's the actual node on the blockchain where this transaction was executed. Timestamp from is our Ethereum wallet address that we saw printed out or rendered onto our website. The contract is the application, if you will, on the blockchain that we are interacting with. And I'll skip over tokens for now, and just this bottom stuff is mainly the financials involved in the transaction. And the token you'll see is an ERC721 token with the ID of 51, and it's good for our JS symposium. Really, really cool. I hadn't mentioned this yet, but this registration pass is actually an NFT. And you may have heard about NFTs. You may have heard some news about how a NFT could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars or more, and that's all really awesome. But in my opinion, what an NFT actually is gets lost in all the hype and noise. An NFT is just a token, a one-off token that can represent anything. You can think of it as a CVS receipt, the title for your car, or even just a bumper sticker or a souvenir from your travels on the information superhighway. In our case, it represents access to our symposium. So let's dive back into the ecosystem and check our token. OpenSea is a popular NFT marketplace, and since our registration token adheres to the NFT standard, it should be visible here. So I already have OpenSea open here, and we're checking it out on the test net. So all this stuff, we saw this Etherscan is on the test net as well. So let's go ahead and connect our wallet. Same process as before. We're going to connect it to the Web3 demo account. Cool. Now we're back here in OpenSea, and I have this one little random token that is an experiment of mine that's in the wallet right now. But let's see. Okay. Well, we should be seeing our js.la token. So let me go ahead and disconnect from the network. Let's go ahead and disconnect. And let's see, we had, so we'll go back to OpenSea and let's connect again. Yeah, it should be this one. Well, I'm not seeing it in here. Technical difficulty. I'm going to, let's see, let's log out here. Let's go back in here. And I know I have some in another one of my wallets. So let's switch to this guy here. Yeah, whoops. Boom. Okay. So if I refresh here, there we go. All right. Sorry for that delay, everybody. So here is an example of our JavaScript Symposium attendee NFT, and it's glorious. There's a little bit of data that we can check, the details of the transaction, the contract address, the token ID, the ERC 721 token standard, the blockchain that it's on. There's also a few properties in here. The date is the future, and is it fun? Yes, it is. So now we have a merit badge representing our participation in this event. And perhaps at future symposiums, we can show off our OG status by holding this token in our wallet. And since this is all decentralized, our sponsors, or anyone really, can now reach out to token holders and offer promotions. A sponsor with a Web3 enabled website could check for our token and offer goods and services to our token holders. Or they could query the blockchain for holders of our tokens and send them tokens of their own. So on purpose, sorry, I get the right slide on here. Okay, so on purpose, I avoid talking about money as much as I could, though it's hard to escape. I hope the above scenario helps envision a potential of Web3 without really concerning ourselves with the larger financial aspects. This being said, nothing's free and Web3 costs money. Nodes on the blockchain are incentivized to participate via cryptocurrency. Now that we have a better understanding of what Web3 is in terms of an internet user, let's talk a bit about how developers can start building things in Web3. First order of business is understanding smart contracts. Unlike some blockchains like Bitcoin, Ethereum blockchain allows programs to run on the network. Decentralized applications are powered by smart contracts, which I equate to microservices or lambdas or cloud functions that are set in stone forever. So here's a quote from ethereum.org. A smart contract is code that lives on the Ethereum blockchain and runs exactly as programmed. Once smart contracts are deployed to the network, you can't change them. dApps, or decentralized applications, can be decentralized because they are controlled by the logic written into the contract, not an individual or a company. This also means that you need to design your contracts very carefully and test them thoroughly. Solidity is the language used to create smart contracts. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about writing contracts, but I will briefly show you the contract code and the functions we are going to call. I'm using Hardhat, which is an NPM-based library for testing, writing, and deploying Solidity contracts. So it's very familiar to a JavaScript developer. So let's go check that out really quick. Okay, cool. So here is our contract. I hope you can see it. Let me zoom in one more maybe. And the first thing I'm going to show you is that we're pulling in some boilerplate code from OpenZeppelin. And OpenZeppelin is a blockchain security company that also provides kind of code libraries for certain type of contracts that can be run on the blockchain. For our purposes, we're going to be importing this ERC 721 code. And the ERC 721 is the NFT standard. So when you're creating an NFT, for it to be like accepted at OpenSea, et cetera, it needs to adhere to this standard. So we're going to pull it in here, and then we can do things like compose on top of it, override functions, write our own functions, that kind of thing. So very basic setup here. We have a constructor where we're just saying, yes, we're making an ERC 721 with a name and a symbol. And then here's a function mint item. And this is the function we call when we actually register from our front end. And we're just taking this this mint function that Open Zeppelin provides for us. And we're kind of wrapping around it and just making sure enough Ethereum is coming in to mint this item. And we're giving it an ID, and we're just incrementing each time we mint a new NFT. And this next function, token URI, this is how we get the metadata that's associated with this token. So the image, the title, that kind of thing. And I'll go right now. We have it stored on an S3 bucket, not really decentralized, but that's fine. And I'll go ahead and just show you briefly what that looks like. So I have that open right here. So yeah, really basic: name, description, image, and some attributes that we saw on OpenSea. The date's going to be in the future, and it is going to be fun. Cool. So I've already deployed this to a test network, so we can pop back over to the Web3 ecosystem, and we can check out our contract. So I'm actually going to go into OpenSea here, and what I will do is check the contract address, and we'll click into that. So now here we are in Etherscan again, but now we're looking at the contract. And the first thing we're going to see is this list of transactions. Right here, we'll see that 9 minutes ago, we minted our registration pass, some other transactions that have been executed on this contract, a couple transfers, but the majority of them are going to be mints, and minting is the creation of a new pass. Now, what's cool is we can click into this contract tab here, and here we can kind of cruise the code, but we've already seen enough of that. We can also click into read and write contract. So here we can actually interact with the contract right here from Etherscan. Here's that token URI function. And let's just go ahead and put in the token ID 20. We know that exists already, so let's go ahead and query it. Cool, yeah, so it returns our JSON file that's on the S3 bucket. Now, write contract, this is more of the interactive kind of stuff where we could actually mint a token right here. I'm not going to go through that, but we could connect our wallet and then throw some Ethereum into it, right? And then the MetaMask will pop up, and we'll do the exact same thing that we did on our front end. But we made a cool front end for our users, so they won't have to like come here to register or just do some hit the network in some other method. So let's go ahead and take a look at the code we use on our front end. So this is just a demo version. I kind of removed all the DOM stuff out of this file so we can just look at the nuts and bolts of interacting with the blockchain. And I also should mention, this is a very, very rudimentary example. What we're doing on the front end to show and hide the gated content is just basic old school CSS display none. So it's not that robust of a authorization, but there are tools available for making things a little bit more ironclad. Anyway, so the first thing you'll see is we're pulling in Ethers, and Ethers.io is a library for interacting with the Ethereum blockchain. And so we're pulling that in. The next thing we do is we're just defining the contract address, and that's the exact same hash that we see on Etherscan, the contract that we're interacting with. And here's the contract ABI, which is a list of all the events and functions associated with the contract that we need to pull in our front end in order to interact with it for some reason. Anyway, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to initialize a few variables: provider, signer, and contract. Now, there's two basic functions in our application. There's connect and mint. And connect is when we connect our wallet. We hit that button to connect our wallet. And mint is when we register the pass. So I'll just briefly go over what we're seeing here. First things first is provider, and that is our connection to the Ethereum blockchain. For our purposes, we're gonna tap into our user's wallet and pull in our connection that way. The signer is actually the user, is a representation of the user, and we're gonna need the signer to approve transactions like minting our NFT. And the contract is the contract we're interacting with. You see here, we're taking the address, the ABI, and the provider, and we're just asking Ethers if we can please interact with this contract, which is what we're going to do. The next thing we're going to do is request the user's Ethereum accounts and making sure they have some Ethereum accounts. And then finally, we're just going to check the balance of our token in that user's wallet. So contract get balance of signer address. So what we're doing is we're seeing if this user already has one of our NFT, our symposium passes in their wallet. If they do, we're going to show them the gated content. If they don't, we're going to hide it. And we're going to show them the please register content. Cool. So the next function is the mint function. And the first thing we're doing here is we're just asking ethers to parse the amount of Ethereum that we're going to send. And obviously, if this is on front end, could be hacked, but it's really up to our contract on the blockchain to enforce if there's enough funds coming into it to actually execute the transaction or not. So yeah, then the next thing we're doing is we're going to kind of combine the contract and the signer together. So we have our contract with signer here, and then I'm just making a little object and throwing all the data that we're getting through this sequence into an object and returning it so we can check it in console log or something like that. So yeah, the first thing we're going to do here is we are going to mint. And this mint item is the exact, we're calling the function that we saw on the contract for minting an item directly from our front end. And once that comes back, well, we're going to get a receipt, like the transaction address, and I'm going to throw that into this wait for transaction function. And what that's just doing is waiting to make sure the transaction was executed successfully. And once it's done that, we're going to just show our gated content, our gated content. So yeah, this is a very, very basic, rudimentary example of how we could interact with the blockchain with JavaScript. I'm not doing any error handling or anything like that. Told you we're doing some CSS show and hide, so don't judge me. Real simple, and that's basically it. So let me go back to the slides and we can wrap this thing up and hang out in Rambly. Cool. So if you are unfamiliar, skeptical, or feeling whatever about Web3, I hope I could give you an alternative perspective on the space. But time for a brief reality check. For all the utopian vibe flourishing in the Web3 community, just like the normal internet, bad things happen. Be careful engaging, scams are rampant, and despite the blockchain being quote unquote unhackable, poorly coded smart contracts get exploited and hacked. The space itself can be kind of like emotionally draining and psychologically difficult at times with all the barrage of get rich FOMO and just the sheer speed in which the space is moving. If you're interested in jumping in, just read up on security practices and be aware of known scams. I'm having fun playing around with these test networks, and it's a great place to start experimenting. So Web3 is still in its infancy and it's figuring out what it is. Our symposium example is a real pedestrian Web3 experience, which really isn't part of the current Web3 conversation. But after exploring Web3 a little bit, this possibility clicked for me, and I hope it can inspire more of us builders. I think applications and workflows like this could be ubiquitous to the future web. Once the barrier of entry gets easier and the expense and volatility of the network evens out, I believe the Web3 space will start revealing more and more interesting use cases. So thanks for hearing me out on this. I'm just a complete noob when it comes to this stuff, but I feel like this space is so new and controversial that someone needed to crack the egg here at js.la. Yeah, as David was mentioning in his intro, not looking for people who are giving talks as they figure it out. Well, that's exactly what I'm doing here, but I hope still like it was useful to you guys, because my objective was to create this little precursor to Web3 for Dummies talk that I wish I had seen like 4 or 5 years ago when I first learned that programs could be run on the blockchain. Of course, us Web2 developers are going to need to contribute, and I'm super stoked to see what comes out of our community in this space. I'm looking forward to seeing you all dive deeper and sharing your experiences at future meetups, and hopefully we'll be in person. So thanks again, everybody, and happy Halloween, everyone.